Hello, everyone. Welcome to the RP Geek stream.
Woohoo.
This is a very special lunchtime stream. You've got me, you've got Fiona from the RP Geeks. You know us. And we're also joined by George from Three Sails Studios. Hi, George.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
We are here today to talk about Mappa Mundi, an exploration and ecology RPG, which, for those of you who haven't watched our first part, we've played now on this channel. Me, Sharmini, and Fiona had a game yesterday evening that I thought went very well. I don't know how you felt, Fiona. I was running it, so I'll let you...
I'm not going to give you constructive feedback right now. No, I loved it. No, it was really good fun. Because I deliberately, when I'm in a game, like I'll read, obviously, try and remember the rules and stuff like that, but I try and like come into it fresh. And obviously, Emily did a great job, but it was so much fun. I think obviously thanks to George's amazing Free Sale Studios' amazing marketing stuff. I'm like, what is this Mappa Mundi? It's blooming everywhere. It was a delightful come into it. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you today, George.
Yes. So George, do you want to give maybe a quick elevator pitch to the viewers about what is Mappa Mundi and how did it come about?
Yeah. So Mappa Mundi is an exploration and ecology RPG, as it says in the subtitle. I actually have...
Wow! Hey.
So this is the quick start guide that I did a test print for to check the text size. I panicked about a week before we went live on Kickstarter, and I was like, oh my god, the text isn't big enough. I'm gonna have to redo the whole layout. And I ordered a copy just to make sure. And thankfully, the text is perfectly big. My partner leaned over my shoulder and she's like, maybe it's too big. And I was like, no, it's not too big.
You can't have too big text. I'm a big believer in that.
As long as it's not like kids' book size, it should be fine, right? But yeah, so Mappa Mundi is an exploration and ecology RPG. As players, you play as chroniclers, who are essentially adventure academics, is one of the ways that we've been referring to them. And your job is to go out into a world that's parallel to our own. The world is called Ecumene. Which is the inhabited world, I think it translates as. Is to go out into this world that has been that is just beginning to recover from 100 years of ecological catastrophe, which took the form of huge storms called the Flux. And the Flux cut the world's continents off from one another and also cut the regions in those continents off from one another as well. So you've essentially had 100 years of like cultural isolation going on. The world is a parallel version of our own world. The geography looks very, very similar. There's no like magic geography as such. There's nothing that you wouldn't. There's fantastical geography, but geography's pretty fantastic anyway.
I agree.
Says the person who wished he had been in geography rather than American studies. But we'll work out. I kind of managed to cross the two of them, so it's fine. The world is recovering from 100 years of this ecological catastrophe and looks very, very similar to ours, except for the presence of monsters and fantastical creatures. And I will caveat the use of the term monster. This is something that's come up. A couple of different people have asked us, because Mappa Mundi is a non-combat game, right? There's no combat in it. Your job is to explore, your job is to document and research and reconnect the world, right? So there's no combat in it. You, as a chronicler from the Mappa Mundi Institute, you swear an oath to do no harm. And some people have then said, okay, right, I get that. I love it. Love what you're doing. Why use the term monsters? Like, because monsters is bad, right? Monster is monstrous. Monstrous means bad and evil and horrible, right? And other games use monsters as things you should hunt down and kill. And my initial answer to that was I'm trying to reclaim the word monster. Like Mappa Mundi is trying to subvert expectations, right? It looks it looks like it could be D&D or Pathfinder. And then as soon as you open it, you're like, oh, it resolutely, completely isn't those things. So like you provide something that's familiar and you subvert expectations. And actually monster was the reason I did that. I wanted us to kind of reclaim the term monster. And then I did some etymological research, like any good researcher should have done before they decided to use the term monsters.
We love etymology. We call it etymology corner over here if you talk about etymology of things.
Well,
so
you're going to love this one.
Everyone.
You're going to love this one. So the origins of the term monster come from the Latin monster, M-O-N-S-T-E-R, E-T-R-E, I can't remember. And it actually means portent and herald of warning.
Wow.
And yeah, right. So I accidentally did a good thing because obviously monsters in Mappa Mundi are intimately linked with the world itself. So Mappa Mundi has a kind of religious belief system that varies in interpretation across different cultures. But the idea is that this world was created by and is continuing to be influenced by fate. Now, fate is sometimes personified. In some places, she's personified as a woman who's spinning threads on a loom. In other places, fate is an it rather than a person, and for example is a bird that dragged the world up from a flower out of the ocean.
Oh, I love that.
In other there's lots and lots of different interpretations, because again, we're not trying to be culturally homogenous, right? So then the idea that monsters are kind of more closely linked to fate than humans are kind of leans into that idea that monster has this original meaning of being a portent or a warning. Normally a warning of something bad, but we're looking at it as portent rather than negative bad.
Oh, I love that.
So that's kind of Mappa Mundi in a nutshell, really. Adventure academics trying to reconnect the world as it recovers from ecological disaster by going out and finding monsters and learning about all their behaviors and stuff.
Amazing.
That's so cute. Because like you said, like a lot of TTRPGs, obviously, there's always the dreaded combat section, which both me and Emily look at and go, oh God, I love about.
I do love combat, but
all right, well, I look forward to the expansion you're doing, narrative combat. There you go. But that's
narrative combat is exactly what I want. Yeah.
Exactly, because it's about again, getting people in that are not being like, violence is the first option. So you go, okay, you're presented with a situation, but you can't hurt or kill anything in the situation. And you're like, good. Then you have to use your brains to be like, how do we resolve this through talking and being narrative and, dice rolls and all that sort of thing. So I've always admire RPGs that do that, because a lot of them will be like, oh, by the way, combat. And it kind of throws anything that they've put before it out the window, because then you go, oh well, I can just fight the thing. So no, I very much appreciate that.
If combat is an option, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be an option in any games, and I'm not saying it's not an option in our next game, post Mappa Mundi, but in Mappa Mundi, so when I was first designing it, when I was first concepting it, I was really struggling over it. I wanted to make a game that didn't have combat in it, and I was really struggling with it. Like as a designer, I was like, oh God, but also as a publisher, knowing we were going to be self-publishing this, I was like, people aren't going to want it if there's no combat in it. And I was like, no, but you don't want combat to be in it, which means other people don't want it in there either. And then I was like, well, maybe I should compromise, which is not normally a word that exists in my vocabulary. Maybe you should compromise and put combat in, but really de-emphasize it. But I was like, well, then why put it in at all? If you're going to de-emphasize it, why bother putting it in? Stick to the courage of your convictions and don't put it in. And that central conceit is what gives birth to Mappa, which is this is a game where you cannot fight. There are no rules for it. The closest you can get is you can in our sample adventure that we put out with our pre-release guide, called Root and Branch, there is a taxidermist hunter in it, and you can rough him up a little bit, but you do that narratively rather. You might find him with a broken leg, and most of the people that I've run the game for have been particularly aggressive when binding his broken leg, just to inflict a bit of pain on him. But that concept of do no harm is actually a really interesting one, because harm, sometimes using violence is a form of reducing harm in another capacity. Correct. Do you know what I mean? It's not always possible to complete. It doesn't say eliminate harm. Yeah. It says do no harm. And actually, if you can find a balance there, if you need to get up in someone's face and subdue them, and maybe even throw a punch or two to stop them doing significantly more harm somewhere else. Yes, that can kind of be. And the Mappa Mundi Institute recognizes that there are some grey areas, and can allow that kind of thing occasionally.
If you have to punch a poacher in the face to stop him shooting one of the monsters, then you have to do it. If that's the only option. And would you say the do no harm is probably more geared towards the creatures who are maybe?
It's geared more toward. It's the idea in my mind. The do no harm is geared towards monsters, creatures in the environment, things that aren't necessarily able to protect themselves in the same way that a human might be able to. So a taxidermist hunter, that's someone who's going out there explicitly to do harm. They've invited harm upon themselves by doing that, right? They've surrendered their right not to be harmed by going out explicitly to inflict harm. It's very similar to the way that I feel about Nazis. I'm sorry, you gave up your right not to be smacked in the face when you decided that most of the world deserves to die. So yeah, we feel that way about hunters in Mappa Mundi as well.
Yeah, nice. So people watching, if you have a question for George, we have a little Q&A tab
Very exciting.
on YouTube. Get your questions in, and what we'll do is me and Fiona will have a quick chat for now, and then in a sort of maybe about 1:30, we'll start going through your questions and maybe probably jumping in with a few of our own. I wanted to ask you about the flux, and sort of it obviously bears some worrying similarities to things going on in our own world, maybe with changing weather patterns, etc. Was that sort of the sole inspiration for the flux, or was what was the thought behind it?
That's really interesting. So obviously, it's Mappa Mundi is a game hugely influenced by the reality of climate change, right? But what I wanted to do, it's also really influenced by this, because obviously Mappa Mundi is set in this like pan medieval period, right? It's not the same, not all cultures went through this at the same temporal moment, but like cultures largely go through these phases. So we flattened that out and had a pan global medieval. So a very good friend of mine here in Manchester, we did our PhDs together. Her name's Dr. Abigail Bleach, and she is a medievalist and a climate theorist. Now we were both theorists. So I was like spatial theory and kind of political theory, and she's also a spatial theorist, but she looks at climate, right? And so her PhD was looking at 10th century Anglo-Saxon boundary clauses and the poetry therein as a form of understanding medieval climate apocalyptic imaginaries, right? Really genuinely fascinating stuff. Like in these boundary clauses, there are spells woven, like spells are included into them to placate bees, to stop the bees leaving your hive so you don't lose your honey, right? All this really, really interesting stuff. And like boundary clauses, this is something that's actually coming into game number 2 for Mappa for 3 sales. But boundary clauses, there's this thing called beating the bounds, where people, like all the men in a town, would go out and they'd walk the boundaries of the parish, and they would do it to poems and songs. And the songs and the poems would feature landscape features, so you knew when you got to the borders of the parish, right? And the beating of the bounds is when you got to each landmark, the older men would beat the younger boys so they wouldn't forget where they were. It's weird, but that's what beating the bounds is.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, you're getting
violence begets violence. Yeah.
Hey,
exactly,
you would remember it, wouldn't you? You would.
You would remember it. You see this tree that we've just sung about? Bang! Don't forget about it.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so like this idea of medieval apocalyptic imaginaries was really inspiring for Mappa Mundi. So like the idea, when we think about the apocalypse now, we think about it as a total global extinction, right? And it's very possible that might be the case, right? Since 1945, the global apocalyptic imaginary, largely, or at least in the West, has been defined by the bomb, right?
Yeah.
Defined by nuclear power, defined by the bomb. But prior to that, when we didn't have anything that could wipe out the entire world relatively simply and quickly, apocalypses were things that happened actually quite frequently. But they happened on smaller scales. They can happen on national scale, cultural scales, national scales, regional scales, local scales, right? The idea that a bad harvest could come along and the people of a region would die or have to disperse, would be turned into kind of like, in this case, climate or food refugees, right? Societies have collapsed with alarming regularity throughout human society on various different scales. And the medieval like in the UK, like in Europe at the very least, because this is all I can speak to, that kind of apocalyptic imaginary was very, very present. And so what I wanted to do with Mappa Mundi was take our current climate condition, which is we are on the beginning edge of this, and then I wanted to show what could happen if you were coming out of the other end. What happens? Like a culture might collapse, a culture might undergo an apocalypse, an end of times, but the people that make up that culture might not. So you think about like, I think it's Aztec culture, for example. One of the Mesoamerican cultures was utterly destroyed, but its people weren't. Like its people dispersed out into other cultures and became part of other cultures and enriched those cultures and brought their own traditions with them. The culture ended, but the people didn't. And so I really wanted to play with that idea of Mappa Mundi, which I consider to be like a hope-powered game of what happens when you are coming out of something like this. What do you do when you're coming out of it? If you can't avert it, which Whether or not we can avert what's coming for us, I'm not a climate scientist. My hope is that we can, but probably not. But what can we do as we come through it and come out of the other side of it? How can we do things differently? And that, in terms of the flux, that for me is like the primary driver. Is like this has happened, something bad, as terrible has happened, but you're still here. What do you do to make this better? What do you do to try and fix things? But does fixing suggest restoring what was there before? And is that actually a good thing? Do we want to just go back to what got us into this mess in the first place, if that even was what happened with the flux? Or do we want to try and build something different? So that's kind of the inspiration that was all around that idea of setting it around climate.
I love that in the sense of like, because often when we're presented with a world-changing event or an apocalypse, as you've described it, as like a world-ending event, in other games it's like you are the heroes and only you can defeat the big bad evil, and then you go and you change, you are put into legend. Whereas what it feels like with Mappa Mundi is that. And I don't want to put Chroniclers as everyday people, because we definitely haven't been playing them as everyday people.
No, they are 100%. They're 100% supposed to be everyday people.
Right, and then it's always like, what can you do? So again, I like that saying like, hey, we're telling these stories about like what little thing can we do to make the world a little bit better? And I really appreciate that, because all stories are valid and all that sort of thing. But sometimes it's really hard when you're constantly like, you're marvelizing, everyone's coming together, we're gonna defeat it. So I had not considered that with something as good as Mappa Mundi in that sort of sense. So yeah, no, that's really cool. Really interesting. I love that.
For me, the ultimate acts of heroism in real life are normal people being like, no, I'll do this. I'll go. Like I'll step forward. I'll volunteer. I'll do what I can.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm, as usual, I'm wearing my political colours. And so we're all about, I'm all about power from the bottom up, and actually change happens at the bottom. And so, like, I'm an insurrectionary anarchist, which sounds way cooler than it actually is. It used to be really cool back in the 1800s when people were like bombing banks and stuff. That was really cool back then. But now, what an insurrectionary anarchist is, an insurrection is something that shows the state to be unnecessary, or shows the state to not be doing something that it is. So if you walk past someone, if someone is hungry and you feed them, that's an insurrection. If someone needs shoes and you give them shoes, that's an insurrection. If someone needs support and you support them, that's an insurrection. And so Mappa Mundi is very much about how you change the small things. And if lots of people start changing small things, how the big things start to change around those small things. Change from above it just doesn't happen, right? No substantial change, no positive substantial change in the world has been people in power being like, oh, you know what we should do? We should stop making people work 7 days a week and give them a weekend. You know what we should do? It'd be really good if we didn't send kids into mines. Maybe we should let them go to school. That change didn't come from someone being benevolent. I can hear my dog barking. You might have to give me 1 minute.
That's absolutely fine. You can go check on your
I'll
dog.
be back in a minute.
No
you
worries.
guys talk to the chat. Back in 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm actually going to ask Sam your question immediately next, because I think it ties in very well with what George was just talking about. And yeah, if everyone does have any questions, do pop them in the chat, because we're very lucky to have George here. Bonus interview, yes, Hatchlings Games bonus interview. We're doing very well today. We're very excited about this. People in the chat, have you played Mappa Mundi yet? Have you had a chance to give it a go? Have you had a look at the quick start guide? Have you backed it on Kickstarter? Let us know.
Obviously we've got a couple of friends that have, Science and Sorcery obviously have done some. I've done 2 streams now. Yourself was in it,
and the playthrough,
Making of a Monster. I know Euphoria's done a stream as well. So, and there's loads of interviews as well. So if you want to get more, obviously after this interview,
you wait for this one.
Don't leave now.
This is live. If you're here live, if you're watching it on demand, then I guess it's not live for you. But welcome. Anyway.
It was live in the past.
It was live, and you can follow us at youtube.com/rpgeeksdnd, and you'll see other live stuff. Maybe.
So I'll ask a question to you then, Emily, because obviously you're running this game for us, and obviously you're the science person out of the two of us. Is this something that when you're looking for in a game like this, is this what piques your interest? I guess like what do you like? Oh, I want to run this with the players. Like what elements is it like that come out to you from when you looked at the stuff that you got given from George?
So originally, I was just really excited about the different creatures and sort of the plausibility. I'm not a zoologist; that is very much Sharmany's bag, but I'm really I am a biologist-ish by training, and so I was really intrigued to see the different creatures and how they were brought to life sort of within the game. But actually what really grabbed me while sort of reading through the game was the settings of the different worlds and the history and the cultures that have been like written into the game. And actually there was a lot in that made my sort of that changed the sort of trajectory of what I was maybe going to run when I was coming up with the adventure. Welcome back, George. Is Doggo okay?
Thank you. Sorry, I apologise. He's been unsettled today.
Oh no, it's absolutely fine. Dog interruptions are more than fine.
Yes, don't worry.
As you were talking a little bit about politics, there is a question that's come in from Sam Langford of Science and Sorcery. Shout out Science and Sorcery.
Hey Sam.
It says there's quite a lot of politics in this game concept, which reflects on real life. How did you find weaving this into the game and narrative?
How did I find it? I mean, so I'm of the opinion that like there is no divorcing the art from the artist, which is maybe pretentious of me calling my game art and therefore me an artist. But
hey.
There's no divorcing it. And I wouldn't want to divorce it. I don't want to make a game that doesn't ring true to who I am and what I believe. I don't think that I don't think it's not possible anyway, but I don't think the idea that art shouldn't be political is completely ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. It's not the way. That's not what art is. It just isn't what it is. And so like it wasn't like a conscious choice to put it in. It was just me designing, and therefore that stuff comes out. And like it's not while it is like it's stupid really. The premise of the game shouldn't be as radical as it is. The idea of going out into a world to try and actually help it rather than hurt it, and like protect animals rather than kill animals, shouldn't be a radical proposition. And like Mappa Mundi is not a game that's like overtly political. Like, you know, Emily, obviously you've read through it. Like there's real world politics in it. Like we've had transitions from aristocracies to republics. We've had a warlike power that was once a colonial power that's now been fought back, and we've got these post-colonial nations existing, and like all of this stuff is in there because that's what the real world is like. It wasn't like an overt political choice to be like, oh well, these people are going to be this and these people are going to be this, because that's not what the real world is like. People and cultures and regions don't fit into those boxes, and aren't just one people either. There's no such thing as like the idea of the nation is such a reductive, ridiculous concept. The idea that this is this nation and they feel like this, and this is this like these are the elves and they're all peaceful and this, and here are the dwarves and they're angry, and this, like, that racial essentialism I really, really don't like. And obviously there are no elves and dwarves and stuff in Mappa Mundi. It's just normal people. But like the book itself is not a political manifesto. It has a statement of beliefs at the start, which is this is what this game is, this is what it's built on. And other than that, it doesn't force any kind of political opinion on you whatsoever. That doesn't mean that the game is not an intensely political thing, but it's not saying you have to believe this in order to play or enjoy this game. But it's suffused throughout the game's DNA. So you're gonna feel it, you're gonna see it when you get to it.
I think
sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, in terms of like as you said, you I guess, and I say this as someone who doesn't write this and is not a game designer or anything like that. Where do you start then with creating the worlds? I know obviously you've had a few people look at different sections and all that sort of thing, but like where did you start from, like small and then build out? You know, because obviously I appreciate you've got a big extensive background in this, so you've already had like a bit of research and stuff. But like when you're like, right, we'll sit down and write Mappa Mundi, where do you start? Like where did you start for this?
So
if there was a starting part,
there was. I started in the room next door. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning. I was asleep, half asleep. My partner was awake. And when you're in a room with someone and you're asleep and they're awake, so therefore you're kind of awake as well. You're in that weird liminal dream state space. That was what was happening. Heather, my partner, had gotten up to let the dog out. They'd both come back upstairs, both got back in bed, and I was like, kind of half asleep, half not. And like 20 minutes later, I sat bolt upright and I was like, oh, I've got it. I've got an idea. And she's like, this is the ADHD kicking off. And she's like, what is it this time? And I was like, right, it's Pokemon. She's like, okay, but that's already Pokemon. I was like, yeah, let me finish. It's Pokemon. But instead of fighting them, like underground dog fighting, your job is to do what I think the purpose of Pokemon actually is, which is to complete the Pokedex. Like that's the thing the game judges you on. Like even when you beat the Elite Four, like that's what the game judges you on. They're like, well done, you're Pokemon champion. By the way, you only caught 50 Pokemon. Get back out there and catch the other.
Yeah.
Like the motto of Pokemon is got to catch them all, not got to defeat them all, right? So that's what I wanted. And then she's like, okay, right, fine. But so I was like, and it's medieval bestiaries. And she's like, okay, I think you've got something here. So I immediately jumped out of bed and I ran into this room here, which has got this big, huge window. Now, I don't sleep in any clothes. And so I ran into this room and I was sat at my desk and like started typing the idea out. And she's like, are you going to get dressed at any point? And I was like, don't talk to me, I'll lose the idea.
Yep.
So in terms of my design, I normally design with clothes on. I should have.
Okay, big tip there.
Pro tip,
Big tip. Normally put your clothes on.
Normally.
Normally, yeah.
Like 9 out of 10.
So
yeah.
My design process is always concept and theme first.
Great.
So I have an idea for what I want. Like, I'm like, that would be a cool game. And once I got the theme, I can't remember where I saw this advice before, but I think it's really, really good. And someone was like, if you can't imagine what the trailer for that game would look like, it's not worth designing. And I was like, oh, that's what I do. That's what I do. I just like, immediately, the ADHD runs away with me, and I immediately start being like, oh, that would be like showing it off this way would be really cool, and this kind of music would go really good with it. And if I can see that, I know the game is worth. I know it's worth spending more time on. And so once I've got the concept of like, this is what I want the game to be, then I have to make mechanics that fit that game.
Yeah.
And so it's like a pendulum. So I start off with theme and concept and I swing over to mechanics and I'm like, right, these mechanics make this game work. And then it swings back to theme. And it's like, right, now I've done new mechanical stuff. Does the theme still make sense? And it gets backwards and forwards to iteration until it rests in what I consider to be the system emerges. Yeah. All right, that's it. This is the system and that's where I'm working. So in terms of the world, like the world of Mappa Mundi itself, my design philosophy has also become the company motto, which is the real world done fantastically. Because I'm fully of the opinion, and this is no shade on people who are doing their own worlds. I love that. I love it. But in my take on things is for the stuff that I design, the real world is so endlessly fascinating as it is. That I don't need to do elves and dwarves and that kind of stuff. I don't want to do metaphor. I want them to be real. I want these are real things that let's kind of lean into that. And obviously we do, some of it is fantastical. So Mappa Mundi has got monsters in, but then people have always had imaginaries of monsters. If you've never seen an elephant, what the hell is it but a giant tusked monster? Like they're amazing and they're brilliant. But like if you've never seen one and never heard of one and you see it for the first time and it's like, 25 foot tall and bearing down on you, that's a monster.
Yeah.
And so that's again this idea of like it was putting the real world first rather than trying to extrapolate out. And so the cultures and the regions of the world of Mappa Mundi are based on real world cultures and regions, and they're not as complex as the real world cultures and regions, because it's not an encyclopedia, it's a game book. We've had to make some allowances.
Of course,
but we worked with cultural consultants to ensure that what we were doing was as equitable and fair and sensitive and valid as we could. And that's where the concept and the world kind of grew out from.
Right.
You mentioned mechanics sort of in part of that, and I think we should probably get into talk a bit about some of the different mechanics in the games, because there's some different stuff in there that I haven't seen in other RPGs, or at least ones I've played. And the one I really want to talk about is the sort of communal shaping, and sort of when I first read it, I was like, no, this doesn't make sense, because the players they'll just shape their way out of every situation I put in front of them. And I don't want them to do that. I want there to be, jeopardy, and I want there to be danger and things they have to overcome. But actually from playing it and then also running it, I was like, oh no, it just encourages this sort of far more communal, and it takes a bit of pressure off the narrator's back, because you're like, I haven't fully thought of a description for this area. Like, they were walking through the streets of the city yesterday, and I was like, I haven't thought about what the streets look like. Fiona, Sharmany, what
Let
do you
them
think the
decide.
city streets look like?
Dessert shop's done.
But it was, I mean, I think that's a fascinating idea. But the thing that, what is your thought process around the sort of, there could be some tables where, say, people want to, I don't know, cross a river. And they might just shape. Someone might be like, they sort of say they're going to shape, and they shape a bridge, for example. Like, would you allow that, or would you sort of no-but it, or what's the thought process?
Yeah. So the only rule, shaping. This is one of those things. Shaping, like, lots and lots of people who play Mappa Mundi are like, that was really good. That was really special. So we emphasized it more in the rule book. And I'm very, very proud of the fact that we have codified this, which is a behavior that loads and loads and loads of good RPG tables have been doing forever, right? But we've codified it, and by codifying it, you've given the players the permission to do it. Like, you held space for them to do it, rather than allowing a GM to just be like, no, this is my world and you're just in it. The players would be like, actually, no, like, this is in the rules, like, we're going to do this as well. So the only kind of hard rules that we've put in place is yes and no but. There's no, you are explicitly forbidden from erasing something that someone else has done. As the narrator is the only one that gets to no but. All the players get to do yes and, the narrator gets to do yes and, but the narrator also has that, because the game has to hold together still. The narrator gets to no but. So in your case, of like, there's this raging river that the players need to get across. They can't just shape a bridge into it, because you would say there's no bridge. You have to cross it here and there's no bridge. They can't just shape a bridge in. One of them might be like, as I look down the river, there's a fallen tree. A tree's fallen over, and it's created a path for us to get through. And you as the narrator could be like, okay, it's also very, very unsturdy. So that's how you get around that. You yes and it. Yes, you can do that. Or I suppose in this case, it's yes, but, right? Or yes, you can do it and it's unsturdy. So you're still going to have, like, what you've done there is you've rewarded the player for creative thinking by allowing the test to be made easier, because they don't just have to swim this raging river. They can walk across a fallen tree that they've shaped into it. But you've maintained the jeopardy by saying, you can. You're also this tree looks like it's going to fall apart. How are you going to get across it? It's not just a case of it's fallen, it's perfectly, because then there is no jeopardy. There's no tension. And Mappa Mundi is a game with normal people going out into just setting out into the wilderness is dangerous. Even if you've had training, even if you've got equipment, it's still dangerous. So there should be jeopardy in it. Travel should be difficult. It's the reason why traversal is one of our skills. Like Mappa Mundi, the biggest inspiration for Mappa Mundi was the computer game Death Stranding, which is one of my absolute favorites. And like, that is all you are doing is delivering parcels, except you're doing it in some kind of post-collapse environment. There's barely any enemies, and they're not really the focus of things. The landscape is, I was going to say an antagonist, but it's not, because an antagonist suggests that it thinks about you.
Actively.
It's something that you have to work around and over and through, and sometimes against. That's where, and I wanted a game where that, like an RPG, where that was a real thing, and that's where Mappa Mundi was born from. So like, it would be a terrible thing to do if I put exploration in the subtitle and then made it, sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's supposed to be difficult, it's supposed to be tough, but shaping, again, as you've seen, like, it allows for that creativity. It allows for players to have a sense of agency over the world. It's not just like, oh, well, this is Emily's designed this game, she's written this concept. Oh, it's all right, we're going here again. We all know what's coming. Not that I'm casting aspersions on you as a regular GM.
No, keep doing it.
I'm a kind GM.
But yeah, it gives players proper agency over the world. The world is for them to define. The narrator is there to facilitate that and to add. The narrator is the prime mover, and then the players are going to help define the rest of it.
Absolutely.
And just to quickly add on that as well, and again, this might be because we've not got too far into it yet, so I've obviously not experienced the full mechanics. But what I love about the shaping stuff is that compared to other games where you ask the table, oh, what do you add to it? The players don't spend a resource, so I don't go, oh, I'm going to spend one of my tokens to add something in. Like that is a valid way of doing it, but here it's encouraging you to add stuff in rather than go, oh, I need to. Well, I've got this resource. I guess I'll spend a coin, and the tree appears. And I very much appreciate that as someone who does improvisation. It is that yes ending, and what I hope again is that people will play this game and go, God, this is really fun. I now want to run a game rather than thinking of like, oh, I need to think about like dice rolls and difficulty levels and then coin management and all that sort of thing. So I very much appreciate it. The fun element for me has always been that collaborative world building and getting players to then think about like, I'm going to add that the buildings are really tall and this, that, and the other. And everyone's like, yes, that's what we want. And you're like, oh, well, if everyone wants me to add stuff, I'll just run my own game and then everyone can add it in. Because I feel like the pressure of being a GM can be really scary for people who
it's intense.
Yeah, it actually it feels like it could be a very good game to sort of maybe introduce to people who are early on in like TTRPGs, just because of that element. Like it's encouraging you so much that the players can add all these little extra bits in, and it's sort of, and I think the sort of 3-act structure that it has as well, along with that, with the sort of the research, the journey, and then the encounter phase, actually is a good starting point for like it's probably without realizing it, it's probably how I structure a lot of, for example, D&D.
Again, we've just codified what most people do. You go into somewhere to find something out, then you move towards the thing you found out about, and then you encounter the thing you found.
Yeah.
Like it's, so like, I like shaping so much, and I like this kind of structure so much, especially shaping. I'm carrying it forward into the other games that I'm designing. Like, I just love it so much, and it's going to be in my mind, it's going to be one of those things that like defines a 3 Sail Studios game is like, we are giving you permission to do this, and we're not making you spend things. So Fiona, what you were talking about like spending a coin to do it, people will hoard resources because they're like, oh, but what if something more important comes up?
Yes.
And then no one ever really engages with it, and you end the session with all your stuff left over. Like when we were first playtesting Mappa Mundi, the skills used to be mechanical rather than narrative. They used to have like actual mechanical effects, and I didn't really like it even when I was designing it because it didn't feel like it fit with the game. But I didn't really know what else I was going to do. I was like, oh, maybe the narrative stuff's too free. But as we were playtesting it, people weren't using their skills because they were like, oh, eventually, if I've got this skill, there must be a perfect place for it to be used. And I was like, I'm not running the game that way. Use them frequently. And so what we did is we stripped the mechanics straight out. Like literally after the first playtest, I was like, nope, they're gone. I'm getting rid of them. And we just went to the narrative focus skills instead. And those because they are interpretable by players. People can then decide how and what. Again, it's kind of like shaping. You're defining what your skill does, and the narrator is instructed in the rules to like be sympathetic to that. Unless it's patently ridiculous, then you should find a way of using it.
Absolutely.
I love the skills, and I love them being sort of so open-ended that players can just say, I've got this skill, am I able to kind of use this? Because as a GM, it's something I'm sort of normally very, and I use D&D as an example because it's the thing I run the most normally. But like, people trying to use spells in weird ways, I love it. I think it's so much more interesting. And I'll let people get away with anything. Maybe they have to make a roll, but like, I'm a big believer in like, no, you are these people with these powers or these expertise. Like, you should be able to try and
you're the one that should be able to define how they're used.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that it's sort of
I think. Yeah, I think so. For me, it's like, so D&D was not my first. It wasn't my first RPG. So I'm not like a lot of people are like defined by it. Everything is held up to it. Whereas for me, it never has been. I don't like it. I just don't like it. Right? I've played it. I've had fun with it, but I don't really like it. And the people around me have never really liked it as well. I've always run other games. We tried D&D. I wrote a really nice campaign for it. After 3 sessions, everyone was like, can we go back to the One Ring, or can we go back to this? Can we go back to that? And I was like, absolutely, we can. That's fine. And like, again, I'm not yucking anyone's yum here. If you love D&D, you love D&D. I'm happy for you. But my problem with it as a designer is I think, especially the more recent, especially 5e, has like atrophied people's brains. Like, you don't have to do anything. The character sheet does everything for you. You have a survival role and a perception role. Like, you don't need to go into somewhere and determine the problem and find the solution yourself as the player. You just tell the DM, I'm going to roll for perception. You're going to tell me what I found.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Very transactional.
it's so boring.
Yeah.
It's so boring. I like all of my designs are like, it's about player skill rather than character skill. Now your
100%.
characters have skills, right? It's like about, but the player is solving the problem using the tools that their character has. Those mental tools, physical tools, whatever, emotional tools that the character has. The player is using those things to solve problems rather than just automating the process by being like, I walk into a room, maybe there's traps, better roll perception, not like, oh, I've got this stick in my bag, I should probably poke around on the ground and see if I can find anything, or like, that's it. Like, what I'm trying to do, I'm by no means the first person to do this, but what I'm kind of explicitly aware of with my games is that, of the games that I design, is that I want the player to actually be present in the session.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be present in the session and be present in the world that your character is in.
For me,
think about it, understand it, and do it. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
I just don't think D&D does that. Like, unless you're in combat, and even then it's pretty automated.
Yeah.
Like, you're just not really doing much.
Yeah.
And this is how you spend your time. You're spending your time often with D&D, hours and hours and hours of time in a session, not really doing much. And I don't want my games, or the games I design, to do that or feel that way.
Yeah. I really want to talk about journey cards. Because I think it's something that hasn't.
I'm looking around to see if I've got any.
If you've got any, I would love you to hold some up. To
Yeah,
the
I'd love to
because
see
they
have a
are
look.
so pretty. So journey cards, we actually haven't got to in our playthrough yet because we spent a full episode on basically the research phase and a little mini encounter. But the journey phase is this really cool thing where the narrator builds a deck throughout the research phase of cards either inverted or the right way up, and that affects how your journey goes. And these journey cards are so pretty, and
I can't find any. We're getting
George
ready
doesn't
to
have
move
any.
house and everything's packed away. I can't find it.
All right.
gosh.
People will have to go to the
Back
Kickstarter.
to Kickstarter.
Oh, what a shame that would be.
Oh no.
You can see images of them on other things, but it's something that I think actual plays sort of played like this, where we're not like around a table together, is one of the things we can't show off as well. So I wanted you to sort of maybe talk a bit about the mechanic behind that and how you can sort of see it playing. I can see it so clearly around a table, and I really want to play it in person for that.
Yeah, it works. It works especially well around a table. But if you're playing online or something, and if you've got the physical cards, if you're running a game online and you've got the physical product, you can just hold the card up to the camera. Put it. You can use it. Like the digital version of Mappa Mundi comes with all the cards as PNG, printable PNG, so you can just flash it up on screen, stuff like that. But the journey cards are there to facilitate the exploration part of the game. So that each one, the final journey deck is 70 cards. 36 of them are individual landscapes, each technically with 2 pieces of artwork on them because they're radially symmetric. So it's the same. It's technically the same artwork up and down, but when you flip it, it's like you've got right-wise, which is it's sunny and nice and bright. It's the ideal version of this environment, and you turn it upside down, and it's exactly the same base artwork but colored and shaded differently. So for example, like the rainforest card is this beautiful verdant green rainforest when it's right-wise, and you flip it and then it's all burnt out and destroyed.
I'll tell you what, George, have you got a PNG that you can quickly send me, and I'll pop it on the stream?
Let me get this over here. I'll send you a couple.
Yeah, well, because I love stuff like that. Me and Emily have talked about it. I think on the launch stream we talked about tarot cards and how like a lot of solo games obviously do it. And obviously as a result, I've got so many different tarot card decks. But any decks that encourages you to be like, here's some inspiration, here's this, and I love that sort of that vibe. And so to include that in this game, to create the journey as Emily was saying, but then have it inverted, and I love that. That's all instantly.
So they
absolute habit.
They're tarot sized, and I wanted them. I wanted them to work like tarot cards do. So I wanted them to mean one thing one way and mean something the other way around.
Yeah.
But be the same landscape. So, right, I'm going to send you the beach. I'm going to send you the plains. I'm going to send you the meadow. I'm going to send you the canyon. I'm going to send you
Excellent. So the
Don't
other
worry,
thing that I really liked around the sort of the cardiary in the so I've seen a sort of preview copy of the full book, and in the cardiary they sort of have a little bit about, you know, the beach and like what the beach signifies and that kind of thing. But then what the team have done is they've put different options for, like, so it might say what a beach in Leknitsa is like, because it will be different to a beach in one of the other locations, and they've got different examples for each of them. So good.
The cardiary is one of the things that I'm proudest about from the layout, because I did the layout for the game. So like I think the cardiary looks beautiful. Like we've got these cards, and we like the artwork on the cards is so good. And then I was like, it's too good to only use on the cards. So they're now full-page illustrations on 1/3 of each page, and then on the inside of that page, as Emily was saying, you've got like what this landscape could represent, and then for each of the 36 landscape cards, there's 4 examples from different regions. So like the book is stuffed full of world building. Like the core rules take 6 pages. The book is 220 pages long. Like the regional guides are 100 pages. The cardiary is 36 pages. Like there's so much stuff in there for narrators to get their teeth into and to call on if they need to, and all this different stuff.
I mean, I found out things about Leknitsa from reading the different cardiaries, and I was like, I didn't know
could tell
this
it was
thing,
great.
And I was like, I'm going to add that in. I also, George will have noticed this, I stole a lot of the lines for the book in my intro. I was like, I'm just going to basically read the intro to Leknitsa because it's really well written, and why wouldn't I? Of course. Okay, so this is, if we just...
Sorry, it'll be 20 seconds later for us, but yes.
Oh, yes. So
I can't wait for this.
Card. That I've just downloaded very quickly, and this is it right way up, people at home. So you can see it's like, oh, sandy beach is lovely, how pretty. And then if I twist it round, and then that is it inverted, and you can see it's sort of a little bit more stormy. I'm just downloading some of the other ones.
That's so cool.
Why are you not downloading? Download.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
they're really
it's so subtle, isn't it?
Yeah. Most people don't notice until you point it out. They don't notice until you point it out. Like when we were at UK Games Expo, we were showing off the first examples of them. And I was like, did you notice it was radially symmetric? People were like, no, oh my God, that's amazing. Like Joel, our artist, is also one of our co-owners. We are so lucky to have him. Every single piece he does just knocks it out of the park. And whatever challenge I set him, he exceeds. Like I said to him, I was like, right, Joel, landscape cards, tarot cards. I got it. And I was like, by the way, they have to read differently and write and wrong way up. And he's like, okay, I've got you. I know what I'm going to do. And I was expecting him to do like boxes, 2 different things.
So it looks more obvious.
Yeah. And then he showed them to me, and I was like, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's so.
And he's like, yeah, it's radial symmetry. And then he showed me how he draws them. So he puts a line in the middle of the card on Photoshop. And as he draws above the line, it mirrors below the line. Or it's radially symmetric below the line. So
this is the canyon, and I think the 2 different art on this shows it really clearly. It is beautiful, and you can see like the sunshine, and then flip, and I mean that just looks with the stars in the sky on the flip. I mean, I just think it's gorgeous.
Sorry, it's finally come up for me. I'm like, oh my goodness, that is gorgeous.
The delay is a thing.
Wow. It's so stunning. Again, I assume that they're as vibrant in person. When the cards printed, they look so cool and so detailed as well. Oh, absolute props to your illustrator.
He's just incredible. He's so amazing.
Oh, and while we're talking about the art, let's just bring up our doggy boy.
Stuff like that with the landscape. Sorry, just to quickly say, it's we talked about before about the real world but fantastical. Exactly this is stuff like you see on Blue Planet. So a lot of the sources, when I was like, I had to get Joel to do like scree slopes and mangrove forests, and like that canyon is specifically taken from an Attenborough documentary. I just took a photo of it, and I was like, this is the inspiration for it. So as me and Jeremy are creating the lists for Joel's artwork, especially for some of the creatures, like some of the creatures that are in monsters that are in Mappa Mundi have never been depicted in Western media, full stop, ever. And so like Jeremy spoke about this. Jeremy was on Asians Represent with Daniel Kwan, and he showed off some of our monsters from Zomang. And so Jeremy is Taiwanese American.
one of the monsters that he wanted included in Mappa Mundi it's called the Mo Sinar, and it's like this indigenous Taiwanese folk horror monster that stalks people through mountain passes. Then it's like a shape changer, and it's featured in a film, but only a Taiwanese film. And Joel did a version of it, and it is as far as we are aware, the first Western depiction of this monster ever to exist.
That's really
and
cool.
Joel, he absolutely killed it. It is terrifying.
Oh, it's amazing. I've just brought up, we won't say the actual name, George, because Fiona and Sharmony, no spoilers, but I brought up the Frogman from last night's stream. I don't know if it's appeared for you two yet.
Yeah.
But I love this artwork. And when I saw the little beaver, I was like, well, guess what? He's got a little beaver friend now.
Yeah, so Joel has just started doing this. He's just started adding other little animals in for scale. So we revealed the artwork for Waghoba. So Waghoba is in Garugoma, which is our version of South Asia. He's like a 15-foot tall revolutionary anarchist tiger who can speak. And Joel put a tiny little cat between his front paws for scale, and barely anyone has noticed it. And then my partner was like,
cute.
"Is there a cat there?" And I was like, "Yeah, there is."
Yeah. No, the minute I saw the beaver, I was like, well, I'm adding in the beaver. The beaver is going in. And
I liked how you incorporated both of them as well on their little honey mission.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which I wasn't expecting to have to do. And it's one of the things that, this is my little, like, my players are the best and I'm very lucky. Fiona just suddenly being like, oh, yeah, we should wait. And I was like, of course you should wait. Of course that is the obvious thing to do in this situation.
Yeah.
It's not anything that crossed my mind because I was like, yeah, you'll just find out that this woman occasionally puts honey out for someone. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, that makes so much sense. Oh, okay, cool. Right, I guess we're doing this now.
Stakeout for honey, yeah.
Stakeout for honey. And it meant you got like a first like little mini encounter without sort of going through the journey phase, which will help you on the future journey phase. That has meant that one of the cards now will be the right way up rather than
and this is what I love the way Emily that you were running it last night, and I love the way that Khalil was running your game on Monday as well. Like with Mappa Mundi, if people have asked, they're like, oh, so does it always have to be research phase, journey phase, and counter phase? And we're like, absolutely not. Like we provide that as like the basic structure,
of course,
the traditional structure, because as Emily, as you were saying earlier on, it helps new people, right? It helps people enter into the game to be like this, then this, then this. But actually, like in my mind, the best games of Mappa Mundi are mixing those all up at once. You're getting different bits and pieces, and you're thinking on the fly and being like, okay, we're technically still in the research phase here, but something they're doing is drawing this monster out. So let's just throw a bit of the encounter in and give them a little taste of the encounter. Before we actually officially get there. Like I love that way of doing things.
No, it's I've really enjoyed running it, I have to say, and it's quite daunting actually because it's so easy to fall back on from having played like basically every other RPG. Fall back on I'll give them a combat to like just keep the story moving. Like something happens that you have to fight or tries to fight you, and that is what keeps the story going. And actually, sort of having to work around that, I found like really like flexed my thought processes and things as a GM, and I think it's helped me write like I think a better mystery than I normally write. Because this is the thing, if the solution to every problem is kill it, then nothing's actually a problem, right? Nothing's a problem. You just I'll just stab it to death and then the problem's over. But it's the most, when we were at UK Games Expo, we were first kind of publicly showing the game off, and some people were like, so where's the jeopardy? Like, and I was like, you have mistaken you being a source of danger for jeopardy. That's not, the world is still dangerous. Just because you've sworn an oath to do no harm doesn't mean that this isn't My Little Pony. Do you know what I mean? Like everything else, no one else has sworn this oath. And again, with like a mystery or a problem to solve, killing something takes any sense of mystery away. You can't question something. You can't, that thing can't come back. There's no more danger. The problem is solved. There's no tension being built up. There's nothing, no drama exists. And some people are like, well, there's no drama if there's no combat. I was like, then you've been playing some really boring games. If the only drama in your game is, oh my God, what are we going to do to get to kill all these goblins? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yep. Absolutely. I mean, I'm running a game of D&D for a relatively new group, a new group to D&D. They've been playing for a few sessions now, and they got to an encounter, and they killed the thing that tried to kill someone that was near them, so they killed them. They killed the person who was trying to kill someone. They were defending, but they went to the death version, and I was like, cool, you can do that. And then they found all this stuff on this guy, and they were like, wait, but we don't know anything about any of this. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, do we know anything? And I was like, no. And they were like, oh, we shouldn't have killed him. We should have asked him questions. And I was like,
exactly.
Yeah, you should have done. You would have found out so much.
Yeah, you can do a huge amount with combat, right? Combat is inherently dramatic, right? It's cinematic, it's dramatic, or at least the ways that we do it in role-playing games, or I would hope it would be anyway. But it is finite. When it is done, someone is dead. You or them are dead, and that's the end. That's the end. And this is the thing, you just get you get into those hackneyed tropes of oh, well, you've killed the big bad evil. Oh, but there was someone more evil than him.
Yeah.
You got to go and find her now, and then you kill her. Oh no! And this is the thing. The Final Fantasy games are my favorite games of all time. But almost every single one of them is teenagers. If you were to put a one-word sentence on a descriptor, it's teenagers set out to kill God. That's what happens.
Sure.
And in every single game, the antagonist, you think you've got the antagonist, and then actually no. There's another one, and there's another one, and eventually it's God, and then you have to kill God, and then the problem is solved.
Right.
And I love those games, and they're a huge influence, but also that trope is tired. Find another solution.
I like
maybe give God some honey. Maybe that will chill God out.
Right. Honey solves a lot of problems. We are getting, we've been going for an hour. We've got some questions from the audience that I will put to you. So Harabed96 says, I haven't had a chance to fully read the Kickstarter yet, but is Mappa Mundi a game that can be played or explored with just one player?
Absolutely. So Mappa Mundi, I have designed the solo supplement. So you can play Mappa Mundi, any of our pre-written adventures, anything you can do in the main book, you can do on your own. The solo supplement is free if you back the Kickstarter, along with Chronicles of the Wilds Volume 1, which has got 4 adventures in it. That's free if you back the Kickstarter at any level. The solo supplement will remain free forever. Chronicles of the Wild will eventually become a paid PDF. The solo supplement does things in a different way to most solo games. So initially, Jeremy and myself are not really solo game players. We've never really done them. And so our understanding of them was as designers, we were well, we have to design something that allows people to the player to play as a chronicler. So we need to find a way of automating the rest of the system.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, that's not going to work. And so I then sat down and I designed it from the other way. And I was like, actually, the player is going to play as the narrator, and the chroniclers that they are guiding through the wilds, they're going to be automated.
Oh,
so actually you play as the narrator and you guide a team of chroniclers through the wild. So you're putting all the same challenges in front of these automa chroniclers that you would in front of a real group of players.
Oh, amazing. And
you are writing their journey for them. You are the narrator of their journey, and you're writing their journey for them. So we've been playtesting it this last 2 months. It's going to come out. It will be released alongside the Kickstarter. When we send out the Kickstarter PDFs, the solo supplement will go out with it. It's nice and tight. It's really simple to use. So yeah, Mappa Mundi can be played solo, and is actually a very rewarding solo experience.
Yeah.
Amazing. And the other final question from our Q&A box is: are you planning on further content post publication? Is this a project you wish to expand long term? And I want to add to that. Do you have any plans for future licenses along with Diviner and all of that, or are there other options?
That's an interesting one. That is so. I'm gonna give you an insight, a peek behind the curtain. So to answer the first question, absolutely, we've got 3 other continents and a world of islands and oceans to explore. So we have definitive plans for more Mappa Mundi. We're also going to be doing more Chronicles of the Wilds adventures. We want to have every region that's featured in one of the books should have its own Chronicles of the Wilds adventure. So Chronicles of the Wilds Volume 1 covers Barbecia, Zomung, the Kikau Rift, and Domalov. Chronicles of the Wild Volume 2 will do 3 more, and then Chronicles of the Wild Volume 3 will do the remaining 3, and then they will be collected into a Chronicles of the Wilds Ivasu kind of collection. We've also got the Americas, which we call Erissia. like sister continents, they need their own book. We've got the rest of Ebulan, which is our version of Africa, that needs its own book. We've got Australis, which is our version of Oceania. That needs its own book, and then we've got islands and oceans as well. Now, whether they are 4 books or whether we combine those into kind of different ones, we've not made that choice. We've not made that decision yet, but we absolutely will. And then Emily, in terms of like, will there be new licenses? I think it's almost inevitable that there will be. One of the issues that we're having at the moment, though, is every new license we come up with, they're like, yeah, but that's just an archivist, or that's just a diviner, or that's just this, or that's just that. And so I think what you're more like, I'm not going to rule out the fact that we will have new licenses, but I think what you're more likely to see is new specializations, expanded skill paths, new endorsements and stuff like that.
That's the thing we should talk about, because I've watched the Euphoria playthrough, and I was in the Science and Sorcery playthrough, and then R1 as well, all 3 of which we have all started as like beginner
baby chroniclers.
Baby chroniclers. And actually, like these classes, they diverge into wonderful ways. And I was really intrigued by some of the different specializations. Do you want to talk a bit about them? Because I think they haven't really been.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm actually going to bring some up, because I really like the specializations. So you're gonna have to bear with me while I load my.
Well, I think
document, which is
I was going to say that whilst you're looking up, that my other kudos is that not many games do this, but you have a pronunciation guide. My God, thank you so much, because a lot of games, including the big old wizards, they go, here is this amazing book, and you go, great, I'm going to butcher every single one of these names, and I just,
here's a dragon with 11 X's in its name. How do I pronounce that?
Their name is Steve now. That's the way it is.
Exactly. It's that it's that like TikTok, Instagram meme of like me reading a fantasy book, and then they entered the kingdom of heaven, and like these names, I'm just like, I just won't pronounce that in my brain.
Can't read them out loud.
I will just look at the letters. Having the pronunciation.
For us, it was part of our kind of, because these are real world cultures, and some of them are real mythological monsters. It's like doing the pronunciation guide is part of like treating these cultures with respect, right?
Exactly.
And our pronunciations might not be 100% accurate, but they're going to be better than most people's guesses are.
It's every little helps. That's the key thing, and absolute kudos to that. So as soon as I saw that was coming, I was like, oh, great, because I need all the help I can get.
Everyone does. We all do. We've all got it. There's like, Jeremy will send me a name, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, how are we pronouncing that?
Yes.
Like our mutant steppe one. So mutant steppe is like primarily based on Mongolia, but it's also like the Central Asian republics. Some of the names in that thing are like nightmarish without a pronunciation guide.
Yeah,
exactly.
But so with our specializations and endorsements, so the specializations are, they're specializations. They're things that a license can reach by following the tech tree through in a certain way. So an archivist will always be an archivist, but can become a specialist cartographer or a biologist or a historian. A diviner can become a cartomancer, an osteomancer, or an augur. So osteomancer is bone magic, because our dice are called bones.
Oh, that's something I wanted to talk about as well. Oh, we should talk about the bones in a minute, but let's do this bit first.
Fixers can become envoys. And this is taking a while to load now. This document is absolutely
so
colossal.
big, right?
The actual thing is huge. Like every time I try,
so the version I sent you is massive. The actual release version will be smaller than that. Fixers can be envoys, fabricators, and scavengers, and guardians can be wardens, survivalists, and trappers. And like the idea is that because these are people who have been trained to do a job, you can get promoted in that job by following the skill path through in a certain way. And then we wanted to be able to we wanted to be like, okay, what if you wanted to be a guardian and an archivist, or a guardian with some archivist training? And so endorsements are combinations of specializations. So I've got the guardian endorsements up here. So guardians can become veterinarians, herbalists, or fate keepers, and a veterinarian requires any guardian specialization. So you could be a warden, a survivalist, or a trapper, and you have to have the archivist biologist specialization. The idea being that you are a guardian who is very used to being around animals, and you gain some like biologist training, so therefore you become a veterinarian. Now, I can't do the maths in my head, but there are 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 combinations of specializations you can put together.
We'll find out.
And we have only presented you with 12 of them. So you can combine in the
so many.
What's that?
81.
80. Right, so there's 81 different possible combinations of specializations you
I
can put
think it might
together.
be
We've provided
more
you with
than
12.
I think it's much more than that. But like that's so cool that the customization is endless. You know, that sort of thing. That
So
you will have a character that's
we
different.
have written into the rules that if you want to combine 2 specializations that we haven't accounted for and come up with them and present some rules for them, bring them to your narrator and workshop that.
Yeah.
Like I can't wait to see what other people are coming up with. So yeah, that's where we ended up. We also put one of the diviner endorsements is a tasseomancer, a tea leaf reader. That wasn't one of our original ones, but one of our community members, Kat, she goes by Rejected Muse online. Kat did has been such a massive supporter and started writing to me saying, I've got this idea for what I'd want my diviner character to do. She's really into tea and the idea of tea, like tea leaf divination. And she was being so excellent with it, and she was going to run some games for us out in Canada and the US. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put Tasseomancer in as one of our endorsements. You know, we want people. I want people like they're defining the world. I want people to feel reflected in the game.
100%.
And sometimes that's literal. In Kat's case, we've literally put her class in, her endorsement in. But in other cases, it's like, go and make your own endorsement. Show us what you've got. Like, we want to see what those things are.
Well, and adding on to the sort of showing what like the community can come up with. Science and Sorcery obviously did their Making a Monster stream. Is that something you would encourage people to do? Is create their own creatures and things to go into the game?
100%. Yeah, in the game, in the final book, in the narrator's guide, there's a whole section on how to make your own monsters and creatures, like a walkthrough of how to do it. This is what you need to consider. This is how we do it. This is what you need to consider. Mappa Mundi is also being published alongside a community license, a very permissive community license that allows people to use the book, use the rules, to even ask us for some of the artwork if you want to use some of the artwork.
Oh, amazing.
They've been very nice about that.
To put together their own publications and to sell them and keep all of the money. Like we want people to be able to take this game and make it their own and do the things they want to do with it, and to earn from that if they choose to. Some people will give things away for free. Some people will charge because they want to be paid for their work, and so they should be. And we don't want a single penny of that. We want to give you everything you need to do it, because you're doing our job for us by creating content.
Yes.
You're doing our job for us, and we're happy with that. So yeah, we would absolutely encourage people to like dive in. We're planning some game jams. Like all of this stuff is coming down the line once the book is fully out. So we're planning on delivering games. If everything goes to plan, people should have their games in hand by the time we go to UK Games Expo, which is the end of May.
That's soon.
Like quick. We go to print the day after the Kickstarter ends.
Well,
so we
backed it, so I'm excited. I want those cards. Amazing. I want them in my hand. I am excited. I've got a couple more questions. Fiona, do you have anything else you want to ask?
No. I'm here just we're vibing. This is really cool.
Excellent. Okay, final 2 questions. Chronicles of the Wilds. Tell us a little bit about what's coming in that supplement.
Oh, there's some really good ones. There's some really good ones. We've made the information public, so I'm just going to go onto the Kickstarter page. So I'm definitely getting the names of them all right. So,
yes, good idea.
Jeremy is our kind of lead adventure writer. Jeremy is now Mappa Mundi's producer. So, like, Jeremy is now taking over taking responsibility for the running of Mappa Mundi. Like, it's onward. Obviously, I'm here to still do design work and stuff, and I'm still going to be like heavily involved. But Jeremy's kind of taking the lead on stuff. And Chronicles of the Wilds is Jeremy's kind of baby, really. Jeremy wrote the first adventure for Mappa Mundi, Root and Branch. So I came up with the name and the concept, and then Jeremy changed the concept, changed the monster at the heart of the concept, and made it better, and then wrote the very first one. So why can't I find where I put this? This is badly organized information on my Kickstarter page.
Oh, it's in the free rewards for Kickstarter.
Free rewards for backers. There we go. Yeah. I was looking at the free resources section because there's free stuff as well. So Chronicles of the Wild Volume 1. So Root and Branch was the first adventure we did. And at the time, we were still getting used to Mappa Mundi ourselves. So Jeremy has now massively refined Root and Branch and made it an even better adventure. So that one's in Chronicles of the Wild Volume 1. That takes place in Barbecia. We've got Kat Southern, the law mistress, has written a really good, creepy, folk horror-y, like really
classic
good.
Cat. Yeah, very
Yeah,
classic.
it's called His Smile as Sharp as Briar's Edge, a terrifying journey into the Königswald. Then Jeremy is writing the other two. One is called The Currents of Dragon's Gate, which is an adventure that sees our chroniclers in Zomang on the trail of Yulung, the last dragon, and a test of courage and faith.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see my screen. That is Yulung. They're dying. What's a fall on the edge of the world?
Oh, I like you.
Our chroniclers are down here. He's also bending time and space around him.
Of course. Yeah.
Of course, yep.
Yeah, as you do. Yeah,
as you do.
Normal.
Typical Monday.
Being the last dragon has some benefits, I suppose.
Yeah,
and then we've got the final one that Jeremy's writing is called Into the Rift, which is described as a sparse and lonely adventure taking place deep in the Kikau Rift, a vast and apparently bottomless scar torn into the frozen north, inhabited by strange and alien life forms. And I emphasize the word alien.
The Kikau Rift was something that while I was reading about Leknitsa, which I believe is geographically next to it, I was like, ooh, I think that's where I would probably run the next. So
the artwork for the monster at the center of Into the Rift, the adventure, is mental. It is insane. So yeah, it's a really, really good one. And so, but like as Jeremy is committed. His absolute pet plan, guaranteed, is an adventure for every single region
nice
that we cover in the main book. So like we said, it'll be 3 volumes of Chronicles of the Wilds most likely. Though we maybe will just do 6 in the next one. I don't know. We'll see how the first one goes at its price point. But yeah, so that's, and then obviously we are going to be, once the Kickstarter is over, we're going to have we'll have our proper, okay, what's our 5-year plan for Mappa Mundi? Jeremy as producer has actually got a 10-year plan for Mappa Mundi, which is grand.
Yes, Jeremy. Wow. Love that.
But yeah, this is the thing, it's we love what we've created here. We are incredibly proud of it. And the fact that, as of right this second, just shy of 1,200 people have backed it.
Yeah,
shows that other people really want this as well. And the best way to show our appreciation for people supporting us. This is our first project, right? 1,200 people have backed it. We've got just less than 2 weeks to go. We're just shy of £53,000. We are in uncharted territory. In my wildest fever dreams, I kept saying to Joel and Jeremy, this might be able to do 50 grand. If everything falls our way, it might be able to do 50,000. The fact that we're here halfway through, has passed our wildest expectations, and we're so grateful. And so the best thing we can do is continue to make Mappa. We were going to make Mappa content anyway, even if no one backed it. We were still going to do. We were going to do what we could do.
Yeah.
But this has provided such a solid foundation for us as a small indie publisher that we've got plenty of plans, and we're also in talks with I can't reveal it yet. I can't reveal who it is yet, but they know who they are. But we are in talks with a group who want to do a monster manual style addition to Mappa Mundi. So it would, I think it would, the idea is 10 new monsters, 20 new creatures, or 10 new creatures, or something like that, told in a kind of narrative, so you can use them to base adventures around.
Oh yes.
And we are it's not, none of this is official yet, but that's part of this. It gives you an idea of what we're kind of thinking about in terms of how we're going to develop Mappa Mundi further. Not to mention the fact that we've got 3 other continents and oceans to explore. So.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. My final question is, I think, the most important question. What's your favourite creature in the book?
Oh, good question.
In the book? Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
good question.
In the
book.
And if you have art of it and you want to ping it over, I will show it if you would like. But
if you've got art,
all right. I'm sending it now. I'm going to send you my favourite monster, and I'm going to send you my favourite creature. You've actually already got my favourite creature.
Is your favourite creature one that is probably... Yeah, okay. I'm not going to show that one.
No, because as a
because I already have that for a reason.
yes.
I liked your
What?
I liked your introduction of it. It's big. It's bigger than a house, but it's also small. It's like
Yeah.
that was
I have
inspired.
no idea
Very,
how
very
big
cool.
or small this creature is
I
right
want
now.
Fiona
So
to know nothing about this creature, so we will
that's
not
fine.
say
That's fine.
anything more. But
Well,
the art,
I'm
I
excited
will
to finally
say,
see it.
the art of that is my favorite. Like of
Yeah.
everything that George
Oh,
sent me.
stunning.
Yeah.
That's so
It
cool.
is. It's so that one only arrived. Obviously, that arrived the day that I sent it to you within 2 minutes of it arriving because I was so excited about it. Like I
Yeah.
promised you I'd send it over, and there it was. And
Oh,
I
I'm
was just like,
excited.
if you
then.
have this
To
one,
Vinny
I'd love
was-
to see what this looks like. And then George was like, here, look.
Boom. Yes, look.
Yeah. Right. So my favorite monster has just been emailed over to you. So like it's so difficult to choose because I
Of course.
genuinely love them all. There isn't one in there that's like there's no filler. None of the
No.
creatures are filler. None of the monsters are filler. Every single one is carefully considered and intentionally chosen. Like we've gone to great pains to like. There's so many that we couldn't include as well. Like Jeremy wanted to do like Baba Yaga's hut as a monster, like a house on chicken legs,
Ooh,
Yeah.
heck yeah.
and I vetoed it in it because I wanted to include the one that you are. I
Referencing
wanted to
it.
include the Sun.
Yeah.
I wanted to include the Sunperni as well, and I was like, the Sunperni
Yes.
haven't been mentioned.
So cool.
The
Yeah.
Well, let's have a
Sunperni
little
aren't
look at
mentioned
Sunperni again.
anywhere in English that I can find. They're only referenced in Lithuanian. So, like again, we're trying to bring monsters. Like this is a particular mission of Jeremy's as well, is to bring monsters that are not normally referenced in
100%.
like from real world cultures that are not normally that are excluded from the Western canon and bring them in for the first time, and to rehabilitate monsters that Dungeons and Dragons have taken from real world cultures and just ground them into dust.
100%.
So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we
yeah.
have like Tiamat is one of our monsters, but
Yes, I saw that.
she's, oh my god, like the artwork for that came through as well, and she's made out of living salt. It's amazing.
What?
And
Oh,
so like
wow.
That's cool.
it says in Mappa Mundi at the start of the game says Mappa Mundi is a game with messages and beliefs, and everything we do is in line from the design side to the business side. Everything we do is in line with those messages.
100%.
And that includes how we treat monsters and how we treat cultures as well.
Amazing. I love that. I've got the artwork loaded for the one you've just sent
All right,
me.
I'm ready.
So
Wait
I
for my
will-
reaction in 20
I'm
seconds.
I'm transitioning, so in any second now you'll see it.
All right.
It'll happen for you. People on
I'm
YouTube are
waiting.
already seeing it.
So this is the Mande Barung. Now, the Mande Barung is one of my invention, but it's rooted in a real. So the Mande Barung is from Garugoma, which is our version of South Asia.
Oh my god, incredible. What a
Isn't it
hair
cool?
day.
Yeah,
Look at
he
it.
is my absolute favorite. So he is actually the last of his kind. He's known as the living seed. Now, the Mande Barung, the origins of Mande Barung. There's a real world, cryptid called the Mande Barung, which is kind of like a northeastern Indian Sasquatch. It's like Bigfoot. And I was like, I don't want to do that because I feel like that falls into parody too quickly. But I had that D&D campaign I was telling you about earlier on that I wrote had a giant in it that was the last of its kind. And the players in the first session were witness to the death and funeral of this giant. And it made everyone around the table was like in tears for almost the entire thing. And I was like, I want that for Mappa Mundi. So I took it and combined it with the Mande Barung. And the Mande, so like the real world region of India that this creature is supposed to be from is Meghalaya state. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but this is the rainforest and the forest there. People weave bridges out of trees. And buildings are made out of trees, forged out of formed out of trees and stuff. And so then I started doing some research into the cultures that live there. And one of the cultures, I think it's the Kazi people, their original beliefs is that there was a tree that connected earth and heaven that carried knowledge up and down, and you could climb up and down it to share knowledge. And so the Mande Barung is a tree bird that looks a bit like a gorilla. Like he's made out of trees, he's grown from a seed. And he and his kind were the receptacles for 10,000 years of the cultural knowledge of the local people. And he is the last of his kind, and he's dying. And so the adventure that we've got in mind for him is like, what happens when the thing that holds your history and defines your culture dies? What happens when that happens?
Yeah.
And so like we're going to be commissioning that adventure for one of the Chronicles of the Wild's adventures.
Wow.
But he's my favorite.
He is
So cool.
beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
that is stunning.
Like really noble. Again, it's that sort of gorilla like pose, but also there's a
Yeah.
bit like in my head a bit owl bear like as well.
A
So
little
yeah,
bit, yeah.
cool, really cool.
Really beautiful. I think we should probably wrap it up there. We've
No,
gone on
3 more hours, Emily.
3 more hours of chatting.
Yes.
I will say, chat. We're going to do a little goodbye. If anyone has any very final questions, you can pop them in the Q&A, and we will go for them. Because George, I think you've got time, right? You're okay.
Oh yeah, I took the whole day off
today.
work. I'm fine. Yeah.
This has been so great chatting. I really am enjoying it. Like when I first saw the sort of the pitch for it, I was like, ooh, this seems good. This seems up our street. Then I sort of read it and I was like, oh, non-combat. I was like, okay, like we like a non-combat game that can kind of work. And I was like, don't know how many stories there'll really be in the game. And I was like, maybe. And then I started reading it and I was like, oh no, I've got so many stories. I want to tell all these stories now. Harrowbed, you've got me. I've backed. There you go. We got Harrowbed.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you for your support.
It is a honestly, I'm really excited to get my hands on a copy. I backed it before I chatted to George. I think about like 10 minutes before we had our first call, and then George was like, "I see you've just backed the game."
I see you.
You tipped us over one of the 1,000 marks.
I did.
Yeah.
That
well
wasn't
done,
intentional.
Emily.
I just thought I'd back you. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm actually going to run it with the group I was talking about who are new to D&D. We're doing like a little holiday away in July together because they're old uni friends, and we're all going to go away and play a lot of the campaign, hopefully finish that campaign. And I think I might bring, if the book is in my hand, George, in July.
I guarantee you. If I have to deliver it myself, I'll make sure it's there.
Yeah, George comes along to the holiday, gives you your cards, and then leaves.
Like, this is George. He's here to bring my book. And I'm good. I think I'm gonna run it for them because I think, like I said, they killed the guy they shouldn't have killed, and I think this would be a really good TTRPG to teach
100%.
them a different way of playing, and I think they'll really
it broadens people's horizons.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, we've had another question come in. So, Lacey, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Any translation in the future? I always have a bit of trouble translating TTRPG rules on the go. They're French.
So we are currently, there are two. So as a publisher, there are 2 options available to you when it comes to translation. Well, there's technically 3. So one is fan translations. If anyone wants to fan translate it, that's fine. Well, absolutely fine. The second is for us to pay for a translation, and then to print books in translation ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's localization. So localization is what we really need to be doing. Localization is when a publisher in that language comes along and says, right, we want to license the game from you.
Yes.
We will translate it and we will print and publish it ourselves, and we'll give you a commission based on each, we'll give you license fees based on each one we sell.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot reveal. What I can say is that we're not currently entertaining any options from anyone in France.
Sure.
But we would love to. We are currently in talks with 2 different publishers from 2 different countries in 2 different languages, who are looking to localize. We are basically open. We are open to localization. So if you want to, the game is very easy to get through. As Emily's run it, right? There really isn't much in terms. You don't have to be doing things on the go. Like if you know the basic rules, which are only 6 pages, you don't really have to do anything on the go in terms of translating stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage people to give it a look.
Sure.
If you feel confident enough, you don't have to be constantly translating things. All your players need to know, all you need to do for your players is translate the names of their skills, and that's it. Mm-hmm. If your players don't have readable or usable English in that way, you just have to translate the names of their skills. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so localization is absolutely something we're looking to do. It's not for France at the moment. It's not something that's on the cards. But if you
know any publishers in France,
exactly. Yeah. If get them to send us an email, get them to put a pitch in, and we'll be happy to talk with them.
Yeah,
excellent.
absolutely. Amazing.
Well, George, any final things you would like to say about the game before we head off?
Yeah, where can we
Just
find
thank
it?
you so much. Yeah. No, I thank you so much to both of you for having me. You guys did an excellent job with Off Balance. I'm loving it. I'll be watching next week. I'll be tuned in next week as well. So yeah, you can find Mappa Mundi on Kickstarter. I don't know if there's links in the chat or in the description or anything, but you can find Mappa Mundi on Kickstarter. We've got like 13 and a bit days left. Well, 12 and a bit days left. It says 13 on my screen, but it's actually 12 and a bit days left. I think, maybe, I can't remember. No, maybe it's 13.
Surprise for you. You've got another half a day at the end. Oh no!
The campaign finishes on March the 4th at 8 p.m. GMT, which is 9 p.m. Central European Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time US, and 10 midday Pacific. And if you're out in the flyover states, then it's also like 2 p.m. Central.
That's what Fiona needs to know.
Exactly, yeah. We'd love you to come and give it a try. And if you're not sure you want it, you can download the quick start guide from the campaign page, free, which contains all of the rules, all 4 character types, one of our 10 regions, and you can also download the original version of Root and Branch so you can play it at home as well. Anyone who backs on Kickstarter at any level will get Chronicles of the Wilds Volume 1, which is 4 adventures, for free as a PDF. You get the solo supplement for free as a PDF. And if you get it on Kickstarter, it's cheaper than it will be at retail price, not to mention all the free stuff you get as well. But yeah, we'd love to have you with us. Whether you back it or not, come and join our Discord channel, come and join our Discord server, come and have a chat, learn about the game. We'd love to get to know you over there as well.
Yeah,
brilliant
amazing
stuff. Thank you so much, George. Thank you for being here.
Thanks,
Thank you for sharing all this wonderful artwork with us. I'm really appreciative that you've let us and let me.
You guys got a lot of artwork. Like, you got more than anyone else has gotten so far.
I've got
like,
ones
amazing.
I haven't even shown yet. I've got the favourite one that I haven't shown. I've got another one that I don't think we're going to get to because I thought we might get to like do an extra monster in this one. We're not going to.
Is that the Zmei? Because the
is.
Zmei are on the front cover. Yeah, the Zmei are on the front cover.
Fine, we'll quickly look at the Zmei.
What? Oh, well, me and Charlotte are going to race to the end then.
We're Look at it. It's now on the screen.
All these creatures. Got to see them all. Got to snap them all,
There you go. There's the Zmei. There's the beautiful art of the Zmei. And there is one more artwork that I have managed to hold on to. And I think George will agree. It is my favourite. So, yes. Okay. Have you seen it yet, Fiona? And then I'm going to shut the stream down. Not shut it down.
Oh, no, I've seen it. Yeah, I see it. Oh,
isn't it beautiful? I like
good,
it a lot. Anyway, right. And it's got such a good story behind the Zmei. I really like the story of the Zmei. Anyway.
Yeah, I was very, very happy with this. I wrote that story with them and I was very happy with it. Like, again, subverting expectations, right?
After we've done the second part of Off Balance, I will explain how I was going to potentially bring the Zmei in. But we won't do it yet because who knows? You might speed run the next bit and then I will end up putting it in.
Yes, me and Tommy like, right, we've got to get all these creatures, we've got to get all these monsters.
Bang, 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 bang.
Back to the school and tell these children that they've been very naughty. That's it.
Who knows? Maybe we'll do like a mini campaign too. Who knows? We'll find out.
Oh, exciting.
Bring Boomer and Chanteurs back.
Chanteurs, yeah.
Right, we're going now. Thank you all so much for watching. George, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
You.
And everyone check out Mappa Mundi and don't forget to tune in to us on Tuesday next week for part 2 of Off Balance. Thanks all for watching. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.